very bad feeling about this.
What is up, everybody? My name is Kevin, and today we'll be ranking all the live-action theatrical Star Wars movies. There's 12 of these movies, and I love pretty much every single one, except a couple that are a little, let's say, mid. I'm excited to rank these movies today. I have been watching Star Wars forever. I started off in the original series, watching A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi, and through the animated Clone Wars TV show, I got introduced to the prequel trilogy, which I loved. I saw every single Disney Star Wars movie too, including the Mandalorian movie. This ranking does not include the Clone Wars animated movie or the mini Ewok movies that came out years ago. I never had the chance to watch them, but otherwise, every single Star Wars movie, there's 12 of them, I've watched, and I have some thoughts about it. This list is not the definitive list, but this is just my list. A bunch of it has to do with nostalgia, but at the same time, I just find some of them more rewatchable than others, and that's going to really affect how this list is set up and the ranking. Without further ado, let's get into the list. At number 12, we have The Rise of the Skywalker. If I'm being honest, this is one of the most confusing franchise movies to me. While I go back and forth between this one and another one, which I'm about to go over for the worst Star Wars movie, after a recent rewatch, this one is absolutely the worst. Obviously, bringing Palpatine back was a major mistake. There was really no setup for that, and it just comes out of like left fields because they wrote themselves in a corner and they had no idea what to do after The Last Jedi. I also never enjoyed the explanation of Rey being related to Palpatine too. I think it's just shoehorned in there, and from what I've seen in multiple different interviews, it seemed like the origin of like her parents and everything changed multiple times and was rewritten multiple times. I know it was even thrown out that she was potentially going to be related to Kenobi, and I think that is a much better, honestly, like a much better explanation than her being related to Palpatine, and then the whole cringe line of that she's a Skywalker. I just think you took Rey, who was a really hopeful, like cool, solid new character in The Force Awakens, and you just make her like really insufferable at the end of it, at the end of the trilogy. I understand that the actress, like, she got hate for her performance, but honestly, I didn't think it was that bad. The writing just shoehorned her and made her so unlikable, and such a bad ending for her character. Number 11, The Last Jedi. What can I say? The Last Jedi is one of the most annoying movies I've seen, just because it took such a lovable character, Luke, and made him into something that to this day I don't know if I like or not. And I understand there's a bunch of purists of this movie, they think it's like the greatest thing that they've ever seen, but honestly, the moment I left the theater, I also thought it was not that great. I still don't understand why and how Luke was portrayed this way in The Last Jedi. Honestly, in the original trilogy, he was a great character. He's one of the best characters of all time. He's portrayed as a hopeful character. He's the literal definition of light, and he even sees like the good in Darth Vader, and that's like what leads to the outcome of Return of the Jedi. But in this movie, he just gives up on Ben Solo, and I just cannot believe that in that flashback scene that's like 2 minutes long, that was enough justification just to see him turn and actually like give up hope, and then he has to go into like isolation because of that decision. I don't get it. I don't understand how a character like that can just change all of a sudden. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Jedi Master.
I do have to say though that Rian Johnston really did a good job directing the movie. It looks really good. The throne room scene is awesome, and honestly, here's another hot take. I think Snoke should have just been the villain for all three. He shouldn't have died, even though that whole sequence is really awesome. But I really blame Disney for this movie. If they had any sort of idea of what they wanted to do for the trilogy, and they knew that they wanted to make Rey likable and have Luke be around or at least keep the fans in check, and you want to build off of The Force Awakens, they shouldn't have let Rian Johnson do his own character study into Luke, because it doesn't fit and it makes the whole trilogy disjointed. And honestly, that's why we got The Rise of Skywalker, which is just a nostalgia mess. I don't know how in this trilogy you don't have the three main characters, Luke, Han, and Leia, together for any of the scenes. That just is such a missed opportunity, and this trilogy should not exist. 10. Attack of the Clones. Attack of the Clones has some of the highest highs in Star Wars, but some of the lowest lows. I mean, just take this scene for reference.
I don't like sand. Disappointed.
Outside of just like the terrible dialogue, the whole story and like the whole trilogy as a whole is just flawed because of the first two movies, The Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. But Attack of the Clones, in my opinion, shouldn't even exist. The second movie in this trilogy should just be focused on the Clone Wars, considering the only thing that is the bridge between this movie and Revenge of the Sith is the Clone Wars TV show, where you see a lot of the dynamics between the Jedi Council and Anakin and Obi-Wan. I think Revenge of the Sith would be a 5 out of 5 movie, honestly, if this movie did its job, and it doesn't do its job, in my opinion. Otherwise, I do think the Battle of Geonosis is really awesome. At the end of the day, though, half of the movie is just Anakin playing around in the grass with Padme, and there's nothing really going on. But Anakin and Obi-Wan aren't even with each other for half of the movie, and I just think this movie needs to do a better job of showing Anakin's distrust towards the Jedi Council. Maybe if they wanted to throw in at the end Count Dooku's fight against Anakin at the beginning of Revenge of the Sith and have that be the ending and the jumping point, I feel like that would be such a better movie. Solo. Solo is probably one of the most overlooked Star Wars movies, in my opinion. I just think it honestly is mediocre. I've seen it twice, I saw it in theaters, and I just rewatched it recently. But let's get this straight. Disney got the wrong idea from The Force Awakens because they thought that we just wanted a lot of content of just like the original trilogy, wanting to be able to see all these things that we've seen before. And because of that, they decided to make a ton of content based off the original trilogy characters and even the prequel trilogies. As a Star Wars fan, I want more than that. I want to see new planets, I want to see new characters, I want to see a bunch of new dynamics. And honestly, Disney Star Wars has been defined by just reusing old planets. It just feels like we're at a spot where it's just one galaxy or like one solar system, and we can't go past any of the old planets that we've been to. And this movie is the literal definition of that. We need to see all these different characters that we've known before, and we need to see the backstory of Han. And honestly, I do think the actor does a good job here as Han. I understand he got a lot of shit for it because he isn't Harrison Ford, but at the end of the day, he did a pretty good job portraying him. I do think my fan favorite, though, is Donald Glover as Lando. I do think the dynamic between him and Han in this movie is pretty good, and just like the backstory of getting the Millennium Falcon. Honestly, this is the most mediocre movie in probably the Star Wars franchise. I think there's a lot of good things, but at the end of the day, this is just not what I want from Star Wars. I want to see new. I don't want to see the old things just getting recycled over and over again. And it also did give us one of the worst pieces of dialogue, and it's just a cringeworthy scene.
Good luck, Han Solo.
We did not need to know the backstory behind Han Solo's name, and just in general, this movie's so unnecessary. We have the Mandalorian and Grogu.
Grogu.
Since this movie's so new, I can't rank this with full confidence, like any higher, but at the same time, I do want to say that I will be rewatching this movie more than the movies listed below. I do think there's a lot of fun here between Mandalorian and Grogu. Their dynamic is great. For context, I've watched 2 seasons of The Mandalorian. I loved the first season, I loved the second season, and I honestly had to stop watching halfway through the 3rd season because I thought the whole Bo-Katan storyline is so boring. And the fact that the whole ending of season 2 gets undone by Book of Boba Fett, which is a completely other story. It's just such a wasteful ending of such a peak ending to the season. I think after season 2, The Mandalorian should have just stopped there, but instead they ruined its reputation by going into a season 3. Big gripe with it, honestly, is that this should have just been a new season. It should have just been season 4 of the show. I do think there's a lot of good here, and I do think it could have been really good as a new season. It honestly laid a really good foundation for season 4 of the show. Him working with almost like the resistance and going after the bad guys or the remaining pieces of the Empire is honestly a really good starting off point, and you could throw in the whole Hutt scenario. Overall, this movie has a lot of fun parts. I do think Grogu is still super underutilized. In my opinion, like, why would the Mandalorian even bring him on the mission if he can't even do half the things that he just is a threat to the mission, and he just makes things a lot harder. He's just there to basically be a Disney promotional video for their food. But honestly, it does a good job. It has the lighthearted moments. It has the highs of like the really cool action scenes and everything. But at the end of the day, like, it's almost like Solo. It's pretty mediocre. I don't know how many times I'm going to rewatch this, and I can always change on it, but I do think at the end of the day, this should have just been a new season of the show because a lot of fans would have liked it. It was a really good jumping off point. Number 7, The Phantom Menace. Again, this list, it has some nostalgia involved, but The Phantom Menace is at number 7. I really think that this movie has a lot of highs and also a lot of lows. I do think the prequel trilogy is defined by that. There's a lot of good things here about The Phantom Menace. It gives us Duel of the Fates, which is my favorite Star Wars song. But Darth Maul is a truly iconic character. It's gotten to the point now that Disney wants to put him in everything just to make a cameo. And he even got his new show, which I still haven't watched yet, but I'm looking forward to watching. Menace, there's so many great things that have also been elevated just retroactively. There's Lego Star Wars Complete Saga, which the whole pod racing level in that game has made the pod racing thing so much more forgivable in The Phantom Menace.
Now this is pod racing.
But I do think there's a lot of problems here. Jar Jar is honestly one of the most annoying characters in Star Wars. I do like him slightly, but a lot of people really have the opinion that he's super annoying. I also think just the critique of mine that could potentially make this movie better, is if Anakin was a little bit older, you could find the relationship between him and Padme a little bit more believable in the next movie because he is so young in this movie. And I do think that Qui-Gon is such a cool character in this movie, but I would have liked to see a little more connection between him and Obi-Wan because they barely talk to each other. Obi-Wan is not exploring Tatooine with Qui-Gon, it's just Qui-Gon with Padme, and that's when they find Anakin. I do think that small little change can make their relationship a little bit better in Attack of the Clones, since they don't really talk to each other in Attack of the Clones, and even better in Revenge of the Sith, and a little more believable. But The Phantom Menace is so interesting. It's such a fun movie, and I definitely like rewatching it. It's just so off the walls, and that's what I like about it. Number 6, Force Awakens. When I watched this movie in theaters, I was in love with it. It was so awesome. I just recently rewatched this movie for the first time ever since watching it in theaters, and I have to say, I still loved it the same. I really think that it's gotten a lot of hate just because of the 2 movies after it, even though it set a really good groundwork for a good trilogy. Common critique against it is that it's a copy of A New Hope, but honestly, I do think that it takes pieces from The New Hope and is better in some aspects than A New Hope. This movie introduces a really good trio of characters that had a ton of potential. Finn, turned stormtrooper, is such a great idea because you get that perspective from someone who's just contributing to the Empire, then they realize that they don't want to be a part of it anymore. That is such a cool idea. And I think that it's such a shame that he wasn't utilized in any of the other movies, even though he's so cool with the lightsaber in this movie too. And I think you could have seen him go into a route with the lightsaber, but anyways, Rey is a really good, in this movie, she has a lot of potential too. The whole backstory of how she was stranded by her parents, and there's the mystery that's going on, and you don't know who her parents are, which is then ruined in The Last Jedi because pretty much Rian Johnston says that she's related to basically nobodies, and those people just left her to be there, whatever. I still think there was so much potential with their character, especially with her dynamic with Kylo, and I do think, even though I was saying earlier that Disney misused the original trilogy characters, I do think Han Solo's death in this movie was tasteful. He did, Harrison Ford wanted to be written off, he wanted to be killed, and I do think they treated his character with like respect, putting his selfish ways aside to go save Kylo, or like to convince Ben to come back for his, out of his love for Leia. I do think that's a good way for his character to go. And if, honestly, like, if they had a scene with them of Luke, Han, and Leia, then this movie would have just been, like, top-notch. It would have been so great. But I do love how you're introduced to Han, reintroduced to Han and Chewbacca. First hour of this movie introduces the characters nearly like so flawlessly, and them meeting up with like Han and Chewbacca, it's just such a cool moment. And I just think now that it's retroactively hated on so much, even though it was such a good start. And honestly, I'd rewatch this one more than a movie that I'm about to talk about. But yeah, I think The Force Awakens had a ton of potential, and it's unfortunate that Disney learned the wrong lessons about Star Wars and just how to utilize the franchise, because now the quality has just gone downhill so much. But this movie, I would give a thumbs up to. It's very good. 5. A New Hope. Alright, put down your pitchforks. I understand. A New Hope is beloved by everyone. And honestly, as a kid, this was my favorite. I used to rewatch this one all the time. I used to have it on DVD, and I loved playing the levels on this, on the LEGO Star Wars Complete Saga. But it's just, based off of my most recent rewatch, I saw a couple flaws that it just ticked me off a little bit, and that's probably why it fell down 1 or 2 spots. But I do think this movie is so great. It has so much going for it, and it created all these movies. Without this, we wouldn't have so many sci-fi classics, and this is just so great that we got all these characters, and we were able to get such a great franchise after this. And it does such a good job of creating a world of where there's so many planets, and there's Jedi, samurais pretty much, and outlaws, and people that are like going after and going on side quests. It's so cool, and it creates such a comprehensive world where it's my biggest critique with stuff with Disney Star Wars content now, that we can't get original content like this. I want to see new characters, new places, new faces. It's just, this movie is so great at just getting the startup. The most iconic characters of all time from this movie: Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa, Han Solo, Chewbacca, even the droids you care for, C-3PO, R2-D2, and Darth Vader is just such a cool villain. Unfortunately though, the reason why this movie went down a couple spots for me on the most recent rewatch was because I thought it was so slow for the first hour. I think the opening crawl is just awesome. You see Vader just tearing up all like the resistance fighters, but I think it was just very slow. It has to do its job of setting up the world, but honestly, it's just, you don't get to Luke until like 30 minutes in, because C-3PO and R2-D2, they're just walking through the desert for like 5 or 10 minutes, and it just takes its time, and it's a little bit of a slow burn, which is fine. I'm fine with a slow burn, but it was very apparent to me that it was a little slow in that first hour. And on top of that, a big issue for me was that Luke was kind of acting like a bitch in this first movie. I don't think it's as big of a problem in the second or third movie, but in this movie, like specifically, especially on Tatooine, it is very hard to listen to Mark Hamill's voice in this. And even though he's an iconic character, I love Luke as a character. In this movie, for whatever reason, and I think I might have just been in a bad mood on this most recent rewatch, but it was tough. It was tough to listen to. It was tough to watch. But overall, this movie is great. I just love the other ones almost as much or even more. So that's the reason why it's so low. But it is so great. Number 4, Revenge of the Sith. Revenge of the Sith is honestly one of the Star Wars movies I got like recent fondness for because of the Clone Wars TV show. I really like the animated Clone Wars TV show, and I even had the Nintendo 3DS version of LEGO Star Wars The Clone Wars, and I really liked Anakin as a character, and so I went through the prequel trilogy again, and I really liked it, specifically this movie. This movie is so great. The last hour of this movie is potentially the best Star Wars we've ever gotten. From Order 66...
Execute Order 66.
...to Mace Windu confronting Chancellor Palpatine. It's just pure cinema. And on top of that, all the fight between Obi-Wan and Anakin.
It's over, Anakin! I have the high ground!
In Duel of the Fates, it is just so iconic and is so much fun to watch. I just think there's so much good about this movie. It's such a shock to me that this movie exists when there was no groundwork pretty much laid in the first 2 movies. I find it so interesting, Anakin's just fallout with the Jedi Council, and even though my one critique with the movie is that I do think it needed a little more setup to make it more believable, especially everything that goes on with just his distrust for Obi-Wan and the Jedi Council. This movie still has such great ideas. It laid such a good story that leads directly into the original trilogy. I think it adds so much more character just to Darth Vader, who's already one of the best villains of all time. It's such a great movie. There's just so much emotional weight to this movie, and it's so devastating just to see the downfall of the relationship between Anakin and Obi-Wan. It's so great. 3, Return of the Jedi. This movie was my most recent rewatch, and this could have affected its placement, but I do think this is one of the best endings to a trilogy of all time. I love the Battle of Endor. I am a sucker for the Ewoks too. There's just so much to like about this movie, especially since you see Luke at his prime, or like at the beginning of his prime, where he finally becomes a Jedi and he finds out that like there is still good in Darth Vader. And this is what I'm saying about The Last Jedi and how it ruined his character. He was able to not only battle the temptations of the dark side, but then he finds out that he needs to, he still believes that there's something to be saved in Darth Vader. And I just find that so remarkable, and I find that so awesome. The battle between him and Darth Vader is awesome, and I also think that Darth Vader making the ultimate sacrifice is such a good ending to his character, considering the prequel trilogy too, explaining all of that. It's just so awesome. I do like the reveal that Luke and Leia are brother and sister. I do think it makes Empire Strikes Back, the kiss scene, a little bit awkward, but honestly, this movie is awesome. There's so much to like about it, and I don't really have that much criticisms for it, so. Rogue One. How Clone Wars elevated Revenge of the Sith for me. Andor made Rogue One one of my favorite like movies, and just Star Wars movies in general. This movie is so great. I remember watching this on Christmas Eve, and it was snowing outside, and I watched this movie and I was so shocked by what I witnessed. The ending is definitely one of the best endings to a movie I've ever seen. On top of that, I just think there's so many likable characters, and this is what I'm talking about. This is what I want to see from Star Wars. New characters introduced, and all of them have a distinct personality that I can remember. Outside of the main lead, I can understand that some criticism that she's a little bit like monotone, but Cassian Andor is such an interesting character, and you get so many like fun and like memorable moments like this.
I'm one with the Force is with me.
On top of that, just how it leads into A New Hope directly, it's just so awesome. I think it's such a great idea that you have these stories where, sure, you can have the Jedis, you can have the Jedi and the lightsabers and all the big action, the world depends on its scenes, but there's these hidden stories where there's people putting their lives on the line and they don't get the respect or anything like Luke or Han. That is such a good story and such a good idea. So I've always been a sucker for this movie. I understand that there's a bunch of criticism for this movie, but it's a miracle that this movie exists in the current state of Disney Star Wars. And Andor is just one of the best shows I've ever watched, and it just elevated Cassian's just story, and being able to watch the show directly into this movie just made it so much more so much better for me. So I definitely have to put this in like my top 3 no matter what. Empire Strikes Back. This one and Rogue One go back and forth for my number 1, honestly, but Empire Strikes Back is so iconic. It takes everything laid out for it by A New Hope, from A New Hope, and it just makes it so much better. There's so many iconic scenes. I love the whole sequence on Hoth, especially Luke just training and meeting Yoda for the first time, who Yoda is so iconic. He's one of my favorite Star Wars characters of all time. And even though he's a little goofy, I do find that charm so awesome in this movie. But you really see Harrison Ford, who is one of my favorite actors of all time, really make Han like one of the most iconic characters of all time. And so I also find it really interesting the direction they took with this, because the Resistance doesn't really win. Like, the Empire wins in this movie. The fight between Darth Vader and Luke in this movie is just unbelievable. And the biggest like reveal in cinematic history, where you find out Darth Vader is Luke's dad, like, that is so awesome. And so many TV shows and like movies in general that try to rip off moments from this movie, and it's just like nothing is as good as this movie. And you just see all the iconic characters you love really take control and really blossom into really great characters. If you want to stay in the loop for more content like this, please subscribe and like the video. I will be trying to post more content like this. I really love a bunch of movies and TV shows, so yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.